But here's our top story. The Coast Guard has released fresh footage of the terror boat incident. A few days after the Defence Minister, Manohar Parrikar, was confronted by journalists at Aero India outside Bangalore during a press conference. The Minister was asked to comment on remarks by a Coast Guard DIG that he'd ordered the attack on a suspected terror boat from Pakistan on New Year's Eve. This flew in the face of what the government has been stating, that while the Coast Guard had indeed intercepted the suspicious vessel, it had detonated on its own and not because of gunfire from the Coast Guard ship. Well, we'll keep playing this footage over and over again, but let's just introduce our panel at this stage. Sambit Patra, spokesperson of the BJP, with us. Brijesh Kalapa, spokesperson of the Congress. Vice Admiral retired Shekhar Sinha with us. Also Praveen Swami, the strategic affairs editor of the Indian Express. Praveen, let me come to you first. You've seen this footage carefully by now. Does it disprove a lot of what you have been reporting, or the Express and other publications, media have been reporting? Has anything changed? Can we actually go with what the government is now saying, that this boat detonated by itself?
You know, Vishnu, I stared for an hour at this videotape, hoping to look through the images and see pictures of terrorists eating biryani and then taking capsules of cyanide for dessert, but I'm afraid I didn't see anything. Perhaps someone else on this panel saw something, but what I saw is a boat on fire. It is not disputed that there is a boat on fire. Everyone agrees on that. I'm honestly not very sure what point this videotape makes.
Sambit Patra, why did the government release this video? What does it show that we don't already know?
Categorically, it shows that the boat was not blown into pieces as was told. That it was blown into pieces. The things was fired from the other side and this boat was blown. And I can see, as all of you can see, that it was not blown into pieces. Secondly, I mean, take this as a teaser and don't think otherwise. Even still, after the release of the evidence by the government of India, if there are people who are hell-bent to prove otherwise, then I also cannot see to it that they would be convinced. I also cannot convince them, because they have an ossified way of thinking. They have an ossified way of thinking that, well, yes, Pakistan was right and India was wrong. I cannot prevent that kind of thought process.
But Sambit, is this really an India versus Pakistan issue?
Yes.
No, but why? This is about the conduct of the Coast Guard in a particular incident and the accounts of the government. If there was, right, so why does this have to be India versus Pakistan? Because that fuels a certain sort of nationalistic flame. This is merely about a simple fact. Does this video actually show that the Coast Guard people fired on this, or does it show that it did not? It's not India versus Pakistan.
Vishnu, it is an India versus Pakistan issue. Number one, why so? Because it was a parked boat. And no one has denied that it was not a boat from Pakistan. It has emerged from Karachi and was coming towards India. Secondly, it is an India versus Pakistan issue because only about 3 days ago, the Pakistani defense minister latched on to what our spokespersons, I mean the Congress spokespersons and others, the journalists in India were speaking. And Pakistan was quick enough to say that, look, here is India, and here is the inhuman face of India. And this is the reason as to why it is an India versus Pak issue. And this is the reason as to why I always say that we, who do not have patience in waiting for a few days for the complete evidence to emerge, as today the government has released, we have provided nothing but oxygen to Pakistan.
But Sambit, nobody has for a moment questioned the action the Coast Guard needed to have taken. If there was a suspicious boat, they intercepted the suspicious boat, they believed there were terrorists on board, and they fired. The issue over here is, were there indeed terrorists on board? Is there any proof to suggest that there were terrorists on board? That's the central question over here. No one is doubting the role of the Navy and the Coast Guard. They can take out whoever they want if there is suspicion. But what evidence do we have that there were terrorists on this boat? Several reporters have said that this was a common smuggling route.
I don't understand, with all due respect to reporters, with all due respect to journalism, I don't understand as to how the journalists could know in a different way And our agencies like the Coast Guard, the Navy, they could know something different. If there is a contradictory statement between journalism and Navy and other agencies like intelligence, I believe as an ordinary Indian citizen, not as a BJP spokesperson, I would repose more faith on the agencies of India like the Intelligence Bureau, like the Navy, and like the Coast Guard than on a few journalists. And I believe most of the countrymen would do the same thing. So whether they were smugglers or terrorists, that is okay, well, think for a while that if this boat would not have been caught, if this boat would not have blown itself up, and if this boat would have landed in Gujarat, and God forbid, if we had 2611 like kind of incidents, then the same kind of journalists who are, presenting a different picture would have been going with a stick around and beating us up.
Okay, all right. Okay. Vice Admiral Sinha, the fact of the matter is, this footage shows the boat on fire. That it sank is indisputable. That it was on fire, that explosions, indisputable. What this footage doesn't show is where was the boat, or what was the boat before this incident actually took place. So detractors of the government, those who believe that this government account is not accurate, will say there needs to be proof beforehand. Did any firing actually take place? Because if it did take place, it would have shown on this video. Instead, all that we are shown over here is a ship which is burning, which is indisputable. So has the government actually added anything new to the knowledge of this incident?
Well, what I can tell you by looking at this video footage is that in case a ship or a boat is blown, it is fired upon, then the boat will tend to split into 2, 3, 4, and it would sink much quicker. And looking at this, it appears that possibly it may have taken about 3-4 hours for it to sink.
Right.
So obviously there is no damage or crack because of a firing which it would normally do.
But this was machine gun firing.
See, the machine gun firing.
The Coast Guard ship was not very heavily armed.
That's correct. Even if it is a 40-60, which is not a machine gun, which is bigger than a machine gun, 40-60 can actually blow a boat up. I have fired myself in some operation where the boat blew up long back, many years ago. So it blows. In fact, it breaks into pieces, and by the time you cannot see the fire for so long.
Right.
The fire will be there, but soon the water would have started flooding from those broken parts, and it would sink.
Okay.
Now, that is not the case here. It is still floating, and the fire is on.
Yeah.
So apparently, it is not something that it has been blown to pieces.
Okay. Brijesh Kalappa, does the Congress party accept what the government is now saying? We've seen so many leaders from the Congress saying that this was in a sense a fake encounter. There was no definitive proof. The Coast Guard blew the ship up. Do you now accept what the government is saying?
Vishnu, I don't understand why the government is making things so murky. First of all, they give a version, and then there are experts who doubt that version. Then they stick to that version, they then make a statement, and then this version is challenged by one of the officer of the Coast Guard, who makes a statement in front of many of his colleagues. And then now yet another version is being played out. I don't know why the government is hell-bent on making it so murky. I mean, it's just an event which took place. It took place last year. Now about 50 days have passed. Why are we still living and reliving this incident? Why can't there be a closure to this? Because, we are not really interested
Sambit, I'll come to you next.
This kind of... We're not interested in this kind of, things playing out in public. We are really not interested in this, and I don't think anybody in the country is interested in this. The point is that, why, instead of releasing this footage, what does this footage show? This footage shows, it's about 4.5 minute footage, which shows some burning. And I would tend to agree with what the Vice Admiral says, but really, is this 4.5 minute footage taking the matter further? Why is the, government behaving in this fashion?